guys, and welcome back to Couch Critics. I'm Lamia.
And I'm Ruby, and today we're reviewing
Bodies. I like saying the name of this movie.
Yeah.
So, Bodies is Ruby's introduction to the horror movie genre. I finally got her to watch a horror movie.
I have always been terrified of horror movies, and I hated them. And I told Lamia I would not watch it unless you sit next to me and you watch it with me. But she did.
I had to try hard. You tried to escape and change plans a few times.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you watched it. And see, it's not that bad. It's not as
Honestly,
bad as you thought it would be.
It's my favorite horror movie ever. I've watched a few horror movies, maybe 2 in the past 10 years.
Okay.
And every time I watch them, I just can't sleep for the next month. And this one, I was actually, so it's a horror and a comedy. So I was actually very okay after watching it. It was hilarious. And at the end, there's a plot twist that just made me laugh for 30 minutes.
The reveal is insane. It's definitely a brilliant, clever, funny movie.
Yeah.
And, most horror movies aren't like this. I mean, this movie sets the standards very high for how horror movies should be, and it definitely it's so different from the genre itself, who takes itself a bit too seriously, and it's one of my favorite too.
Yeah.
So Bodies. It's this movie about this couple, these two girls who decides to join their friends at a party at one of their friends' houses. So they go there, it starts raining, and they decide to play this game called Bodies. I did not understand the game.
Me neither. And so there's a killer, and then they have to turn off the lights, and the killer has to kill someone.
Yeah.
And when someone finds a body, they have to scream bodies, and turn on the lights. But how do we, who chooses who's the killer? That's the one thing that I didn't understand.
From what I understood, when the first person dies, the game stops, but it does not make a lot of sense. Anyways, you play this game, and a few minutes after the game, they start fighting with each other. It's nothing dramatic. They just had a feud with each other. Then one of them dies, and they start blaming each other and killing each other's, and it sounds dramatic, but it's so Gen Z coded, and it's so clever. I mean, the cast is so Gen Z coded. You have
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson.
Yes. Dave Peterson. No.
Pete Davidson, Rachel Snot. I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing.
I was told that Pete Davidson. I think he's very funny. I don't know if it's a popular or unpopular opinion, but I don't know. This guy has this kind of personality that's just Pete Davidson.
It's actually my first movie. It's the first movie where I see Pete Davidson.
I don't think he's done a lot of movies. I know he does a lot of SNL. Saturday Night Live, but that's it. I haven't seen him in any other movies. I know he does a lot of stand-up, and then he dates a lot of celebrities. I think that's why he's famous.
Yeah. But I've actually seen Rachel Snot in The Idol.
Okay. Yes.
I really like The Idol, by the way.
I want to watch it. It's been on my list for a very long time.
It's very controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, most people didn't like it.
The playlist is fire. The soundtrack.
Yeah, it is, but it's very problematic. People feel like Lily Rose was kind of pushed to do a lot of stuff, but I don't think you can push Lily Rose to do anything.
I don't think
it's Johnny Depp's daughter.
Yeah, exactly. And Vanessa Paradis's daughter as
well.
Yeah. It's there was the same controversy with Sydney Sweeney and Euphoria, wasn't it? Didn't people think that she was forced to do certain scenes where in fact she just wanted to do them?
It's the same director, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just remembered it's the same director. I think Sam Levinson directed it. The Weeknd produced it and starred in it.
Yeah.
I liked the reveal at the end. There's a huge plot twist at the end.
In The Idol?
Yeah, in The Idol. Okay. And it's only 5 episodes, because I think people tried to boycott it, so they had to cut the episodes off. I'm not sure, but this is what I heard.
Wasn't it also, okay, now this is probably just a rumor, but wasn't it also inspired by Selena Gomez's life?
That's what I heard, but don't quote us on this.
No, don't quote us on this. Okay, maybe we should do a bonus episode of the Idol.
We should. So, going back to Bodies, what is there to say about this movie besides that it's great?
It's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing that I really liked about it is that it's not suspense, like we don't see people dying, like maybe just the first person who dies, we see them as they're like dying, but it's nothing too scary, it's nothing too suspenseful. Even the music, I don't remember them like being any eerie music or anything that's really annoying. And most of the time, I mean, we've seen a few people die on the spot, but we also saw a lot of bodies, so yeah, I don't know, it just wasn't scary, and the reveal at the end makes it even less scary. And the characters are just so particular, you know?
Yeah.
There's the vet guy who people thought he was in the army.
The jokes are hilarious. Like, it's so, the writing in it is so clever. Like, the vet jokes, there was this girl who's played by Rachel Snott, and she brought her Tinder dates to the party who she said was a vet, and everyone thought that he was in the army, but he's a pet doctor. And also when they started talking about astrology and body dysmorphia
and podcasts
and the podcast,
I also think it had a lot of deep meaning, though. Not a lot of deep meaning, but there were some conversations, like at some point there were like very heated fights between the friends, and they just started saying everything that they didn't like about each other. And these conversations really brought up like resentment between the group of friends. And I think it was very cleverly added. Like they went from being very comic to being very dramatic to just going back to horror, and it just it was something.
I don't even think that they were trying to be funny. These are the kind of conversations that you hear people having nowadays, like girls going on dates solely because they think that the sign of their dates match with theirs.
No, if he's a moon Libra, you just cannot trust the person.
Of course,
you know?
it explains everything.
I don't know what Libra means, but I've heard people have these conversations actually, and it's just it's very funny. Sometimes I'd be walking in the metro and I hear like the younger people, and then I feel very old because I'm like, oh my god.
But I don't know why a lot of movies aren't using the reflection, the conversations that we have right now as a reflection in their movies. Because like, I don't know, like sometimes you watch movies and you're like, this is so dystopian to the way people talk. And
I don't know if, like, I would be very curious to find out how old the writer is, and if they're actually also from Gen Z, because all the actors are very young except for the one Tinder date who is a vet, but everybody else is so young, and I don't know. And I don't know if it was a satire of our generation, or if it was just like mirroring it, because it does feel like a satire. But as you said, it's conversations that actually happen. So yeah.
And also, I liked how people most of the characters worried about each other whenever like one of them would get killed, but like they would always focus their attention back on themselves and like try to start to like complain about something that's going on in their lives. And it just goes to show how our generation right now, like in our generation, everyone is so self-centered, and even in like the worst scenarios. And I loved the best way to describe this movie is absurd in the best way, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with it.
And I also really liked how each of the characters had a different reaction to stress and like to being scared. Like some of them were screaming, others were like proactive and like doing stuff. You had the main character, the blonde girl. She just couldn't do anything. She wouldn't say anything. And
there's a girl who hid. She just went and hid it. The girl who was fighting. There's Sophie who just like went back, relapsed again, even though she was sober. And then there's Emma, Emma was the funniest character. That's Rachel, right?
No, Emma is the actress.
That's
his girlfriend.
Okay, yeah.
What do you think would have been your reaction if you were in this situation?
My
You
God.
find out like you're throwing a party and one of your friends dies, and like, how would you react?
I think I would have done like, I think I would first try to go to a car and try to get away.
But like, you
And then the
don't
car
know if
didn't work.
you're gonna be chased by a killer
Right.
to the car.
I have no idea what I would have done. I think I would have hid, but then I have no idea. It's such weird things because I think in these when we're watching these movies, everybody wants to think like, oh no, I would have had a different reaction. Like, why would you go down the stairs if you know something bad is like happening there? But then you're in these situations and you end up doing the same thing. And I think also our brain just stops working when you were under so much stress. I read in a book somewhere that you know, the reason why we stop when we see cars instead of keep walking or running is because our bodies are used that back in the days when when we used to see bears, it was the right thing to do to just stop in front of the bear and freeze so that you don't seem as a threat. And we're still like our brain still is used to having a reaction that we would have like bears, but like the danger has changed. Now we're no longer threatened by bears, we're threatened by cars, but our reaction is still the same. So I don't know if our my reaction would be adapted to the situation or not. Yeah.
No, I think you can never predict unless you're in that situation, which I hope would never happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think I would just rather die if I was chased by a killer. I'd rather die first. I'm not brave. I wouldn't fight.
I think you would fight.
I would just cry. I think I would have had the same reaction as Brie. I don't think I would have reacted like I don't do well whenever I'm stressed out, like even for the most basic situations, I just cry. Like I cannot deal with a lot of stress. I need like time to process. And since in these situations you don't have time, this is why I think that I would be probably one of the first people to die.
I freeze when I'm in a bed. I just freeze. My brain just blanks. So I don't know. Yeah. Also, can we talk about how Sophie, which is one of the main characters, was in the Hunger Games? You told me about that, and it's just crazy because we've seen her grow up and she changed a lot. I wouldn't have recognized her if you didn't tell me about it. But yeah, it's just interesting to see the cast.
It's nice to see her again.
Yeah.
Okay, so spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about the ending.
Okay.
So if you haven't watched the movie, come back when you watch it, and I promise it's worth watching.
Please watch it. I hate horror movies and I love them, so don't keep watching this podcast unless you watch the movie.
So in the ending, we find out that Pete Davidson, who was the first friend to die and like who started this whole like killing spree, killed himself when he was trying to do a TikTok. He literally stabbed himself. First of all, I don't know how TikTok feels about this movie. Because, like, I saw a lot of, like, controversy about, the challenges that are on TikToks. Especially when it comes to kids. There has been a few challenges that were considered harmful or dangerous. And so, isn't that movie, like, putting, like, more salt on the wounds?
I honestly don't think TikTok cares. I don't know. I'm sorry if TikTok does care, but I don't know. I don't know. I think social media is there, and it's not necessarily I don't know how they can take responsibility for, I think, social media. There's a huge ethical question around social media, and there should be more rules that protects the consumer, like the people who are consuming all of this content. I totally agree with that. But to a certain extent, especially in that case, Pete Davidson was a grown man. So I don't think it was TikTok's fault. I think it's our responsibility to learn how to
be careful.
Yeah, be careful. I don't know. That's very controversial. And I think if we go further in this debate, I might like switch opinions because I think there's a responsibility on both sides. But we shouldn't just blame the huge social media platforms because
I totally agree, but I do feel like there should be more supervision and more strict rules. I do get like that someone like Pete Davidson like is responsible for himself, but I think that kids shouldn't be allowed to be on TikTok, for example. Like if you're 18 or under, if someone who's our age can kill himself when he's doing a TikTok challenge.
That's fair. Yeah.
Aren't like kids going to do like much worse? It's insane what people can do for views. Because to me, like this is the goal of what he was doing. He wanted to get views. He wanted to seem cool, and it shows how far people are willing to go right now to be included.
Yeah. I don't think he just did it for views, however. I think he also did it because the vet guy did it and he was a bit jealous of him.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah, I think he just did it just to prove himself. And yeah, and I don't know, I just loved his role. And yeah, after finding out how he died, I just couldn't stop laughing. I had like a 30-minute laughing spree after that. It was hilarious.
You could have never guessed. Like it's insane.
I was literally thinking that it was either Sophie or Bree the killer. I was waiting for one of them to kill each other, and then we realized that we're both innocent, and a lot of people died because Pete killed himself by accident.
But you know what? Like, I think that the reason why people like these kind of movies more, or like even we were talking about Climax earlier, because those situations are more likely to happen than like being, I don't know, like stalked by a serial killer, or like, I don't know, someone intrude in your house and trying to kill you.
And it's less scary knowing that this is what it happened, because when you see movies where there's actual criminal, I think even if it's not that likely, it just like you start having the idea in your head and you start doubting, like, are people like, I don't know, it just makes you doubt your environment and everything. And then you see these movies happen, and then you see all of these people dying, and then you realize that in fact it was nobody's fault, and you're like, okay, maybe it's not that much threatening out there, maybe it's like it's not that unsafe, and it's just like reassuring.
No,
but you still get the adrenaline of watching a horror movie without like the fear afterwards and like the aftermath of the overthinking.
And also there wasn't any suspense music, which is so nice, because we're kind of over that. Like, I feel like everything has been done already in horror movies, and so like people should try to do new things. Like the comedy effects in this movie, I don't usually like when directors mix genres, but I think it perfectly works in here, because at the end of the day, horror movies, no matter how hard you try to make people relate to what's going on, they're always going to be dystopian, because nobody dies in real life and comes back to life to watch a horror movie. I hope not. And to relate to what's going on. But therefore, I think it's the perfect excuse to try so many different stuff and to just experiment. And right now, most remakes of horror movies are failing. There was a remake of this movie that with Madeline Klein from Riverdale.
Okay.
And it was a total fail. I did not watch it, but like I heard the worst thing about it. And Texas Chainsaw was a fail. The new ones. The new Screams sucks.
Oh, they weren't scary, actually.
No.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That was the last horror movie I watched before Bodies. Yeah. And it didn't feel like a horror movie. But yeah, besides that, I have a theory, because we were talking about music, that horror movies, if you put them on mute, they're just not scary. But I think in that movie, because the characters were so relatable and funny, we're still scared even though there was no scary music. In other horror movies, and I haven't watched a lot, so maybe I can't really talk about it, but in the ones I've watched, in the very like basic ones, it was like, it always started as like scientific people trying to resurrect someone or things like that, and just it didn't make sense, because that's all that was. Like, their personality was trying to do something that's just creepy in the first place. In that movie, that wasn't the goal. So yeah.
And also, like, just to add up, there, like, even the director of Terrifier, he's making slasher movies like back at the time, and they work because it's just so different and it's so experimental, and like people are ready for like this genre to change, and Maxine is different, and yeah. I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to Maxine. And let me, are changing me. I've been watching more and more horror, but I love
fun.
It. Yeah, it's fun. I love it, as long as they're not too scary. I think that sums it up.
I think so too.
That's on Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. If you're still here and you haven't watched it,
You should still watch it.
Yes.
I mean, even if you know what happened at the end, you should watch it. The reason why we did it right now, I know it came out in 2022, but it's coming out on Netflix today, actually.
Yeah.
We're filming on July 1st, so yes. You're probably gonna see this in 2 weeks. So you should watch it.
And happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day from the past.
Yes. We'll see you in our next video. Bye.
Bye, guys.